Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on, Joe. Welcome to the
Yep.
program. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Yourself?
Can't complain rather well. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you knew this was the way to go? So that is what you do for a living, please.
Okay. My name is Joseph Stetter. I didn't know what I want to do when I grow up, so I switched careers 9 times and jobs over
Wow.
eight.
Okay,
Over
that's a
eight.
lot. And we're
Along
talking careers, not different companies, but the same career.
no, careers. So I've worked in finance. I've worked in operations. I've worked in private education. I've worked in we'll call it a little bit of marketing. I've worked in call centers in different industries as an entrepreneur in education. So along the way of kind of trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, I realized that early on in my career, especially, I got bored very easily. And so I would either quit or get fired because it didn't
Yeah.
challenge me. Uh, and then I kind of fell into recruiting after kind of leaving finance. I worked for a recruiting firm where I generated $760,000 in revenue for them in my first year. My bonus for Christmas was cheese and crackers. And when
What?
I looked at the owner and I said, "What is this?" She was like, "Well, the cheese is from a very high-end
Oh,
frou-frou
I'm
grocery."
sorry. So you meant like literally cheese, and I thought
Literally
it was
cheese and
like a
crackers.
metaphor for small
Literally
amount
cheese
of
and
money.
crackers. Yeah, no, literally cheese and crackers. And when I
Okay.
and said, "What is this?" She said, "Well, the cheese is from a very high-end grocery store where the cow is massaged for a month." I looked at her and go, "Do I look like I'm 65 years old that I need cheese from high-end grocery store?" Sadly, the crackers are from like a dollar store kind of thing, right? And I said,
Right.
I generated $750,000 for you, and this is how you're gonna thank me.
And
You
the
know,
crackers weren't even massaged.
I mean, my supervisor had been there for 11 years, generated $140,000 for the year, just to kind of compare. So I was like, you know what? I don't need you. I can do this on my own. And so I opened, formerly was Forefront Futures Recruitment, and then it became the Celebrate Group, where I've recruited for some of the largest companies in the world and local companies. So I've worked with Deloitte and Touche. I've worked with Tata Consulting Services, which owns a third of India. I've worked with companies like Apotex Pharmaceuticals, which is the largest manufacturer of generic drugs in the world. And along the way, because I've always been someone who loves to serve. Uh, in fact, one of the jobs that I was doing, I was working in a private company that owns multiple private colleges. And I noticed that their career services were just awful because they were regurgitating information that was handed down from 40 years ago and no one ever changed, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wrote a manual saying, here's how you find a job, here's how you should have your career services. My VP was very intimidated that I could think for myself and kind of threw me under the bus. So I took the manual that I created and I published it as my first book. And then since then, I've published 11 books. I've been
That's
featured in.
amazing. What's the name of the book?
So my first book there was two versions. One was called Canada, Congratulations, You're Hired. It was easier than you thought. And one was called USA, Congratulations, You're Hired. And what I did is I did the homework for people on how to find a job correctly. Along the way of doing this and being of service, I've had the honor and the pleasure of helping over 11,000 people land their dream job in as little as 2 days. So right now, I am the resume whisperer, and I help kind of individuals that are looking to immigrate to North America or currently here, but kind of can't get an interview to get noticed in as little as 2 days and get hired. And I help corporations with the Celebrate Group as a corporate culturist kind of hire amazing people and keep them because I give them insights on how somebody thinks, how they act, how they behave, how they make decisions, their communication style, their leadership style, what social responsibility they're interested in, so that you have a complete picture of the person, not just the recruiting. And for recruiting, I do old school headhunting, meaning I go find the people that are working, that are not looking for a job, and bring them to my clients rather than the ones that have been looking for a year or two. Because if you've been looking for a year or two and you're
Yeah.
not getting interviews, your resume and what you're doing is wrong, basically.
So you're basically like a mediator between those that are looking for jobs and companies that are hired. In
Correct.
other
So I
ways,
have
an HR that actually works.
correct. So I'm in a like so I help the individuals, but I also help companies. So the individuals is basically people that come and say, you know what, I've been looking for work for 6 months to a year. I've sent out hundreds of resumes. No one's responding to me. And I say, okay, without looking at your resume, here's probably the 5 mistakes that you've made in your resume. The first one is you use Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri as your font because those are the defaults in Microsoft Word, and
Yeah.
everybody uses them. Number two, you use the black circles or dots as your bullet points.
What
Right?
about dashes?
Same thing.
Okay.
Equally as bad. Equally as bad. Okay. Number three, you have a section at the front of your resume called kind of skills or career history, where you fill it with useless, fluffy information such as I'm hardworking, dedicated, committed team player with excellent communication skills.
The template.
Right, but here's the thing. In 20 years of recruiting, I've never once looked for those words. And here's the reality. Your definition of hardworking and my definition of hardworking could be very, very different.
Yeah.
So if I compare, let's say, an accountant that works 80, like during tax season, it's mandatory to work 80 hours a week. What's hardworking? 100? If I compare that to, let's say, a nurse that was working at the beginning of the pandemic, especially, right, and had to do 4 hours of overtime. Just because the nurse is doing 4 hours of overtime, does that mean that the nurse is less hardworking than the accountant? No, because there's
Definitely varies, yeah.
right, there's different levels of stress. So I think it's useless to do that kind of thing. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Legally Blonde, it's an old movie with Reese Witherspoon where she applies to Harvard.
I know the title, I haven't.
So the whole point is that when she applies to Harvard and then she's applying to the internship, she sends a pink scented resume. And everybody looks at it and goes, it's pink and it's scented, but they remember it, right? So I'm not saying you need to do a pink scented resume, but let's say take your headings and change the color. Change the bullets from the regular squares or hyphens to a diamond or an arrow. It breaks the ice slightly, but can make a difference kind of thing, right? Now, obviously now, at least in North America, currently there's about 50 million people that are unemployed. There's 50 million people that are severely underemployed, meaning have a university or college degree.
What age approximately? Because 50 million is a lot. North America, do you mean like Canada, US, and Mexico all together?
USA and Canada. USA and Canada only.
So I don't have any numbers in front of me. I'm just using what I know, but US is around 350 million people, and Canada is around 40 million people.
So there's 380 and 38, yes.
Yeah, so all in total, that's 50 million is a lot, to be honest.
Yep. And it's going to increase right now because it's based on what's happening in the news right now. Another 20 million people are scheduled to lose their jobs soon.
What? How?
Again,
without details, of course, but because you're talking about huge numbers.
It's a combination of, first of all, if you look at what happened with the pandemic, where you have self-checkouts, right? A lot of retailers, for example, saying, why am I paying salary to have cashiers when I could put in a machine and I can save money on the salaries because I need one person there to supervise.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to have that because of AI on automation. There is more of a trend that, okay, these things can be done through machine learning or through, like right now, for example, there are 5 locations of McDonald's that are completely humanless. It's all machines.
Who's making the burgers?
The machines.
Oh, the entire place is like,
yeah. So there's maybe one person on site that makes sure that none of the machines break, but everything is human free, right? So you place your order. Because it's kind of an assembly line, like a hamburger is made exactly the same way. The fries are timed exactly to a specific time in McDonald's. They've proven the model that you don't need employees in McDonald's, let's say, if the machines can do the self-checkout and everything else kind of thing, right?
Okay, yeah, that's a little bit of a valid point, but what I don't understand is what you're describing is what happened about 150 years ago in Britain when, those iconic phone booths, right? The red ones. Okay, so the first time they were implemented, the mail delivery guys broke all of them because they were afraid that they'd be out of job. And I've never been to Great Britain, but I'm pretty sure that if I go there right now, I can get a job as a mailman. So yes, of course, automation is part of our lives, no question about it. But if you really want a job, you can find a job. At least
Right. But
it's like this in Europe, but I'm almost 99% certain it's like this in the United States and Canada as well.
Right. But here's the thing. You said a very important statement. If you really want a job, you can find it. The problem is that we've become a very lazy society, and we've become kind of focused on sending resumes online. So even if you, again, I love learning. I'm always reading. I'm always kind of excited. So one of the most famous books that every successful person in history has read at least once, if not reading it once a year, is the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Right. In the book there, it talks about going the extra mile. When was the last time you walked around and saw somebody that's an employee picking up trash on the floor or
Almost
opening
every
doors?
day.
Huh?
Almost
Right.
every day.
But it might be more common in Europe. In North America, you don't see it. It's just like, oh, whatever, there's trash on the floor. I'll just walk past it.
Even I'm doing it.
Right. But those are the ones. So individuals like yourself, Denny, are the ones that are going to get promoted, are the ones that are going to advance in their career because they're doing that little extra. You know, the whole world is talking about leadership right now.
Right.
So what's the difference between a leader and a manager?
A leader and a manager was the, I guess it's manager is basically a title. Leader is like a character. You can be the leader, you can have those qualities, but not have the title, and of course vice versa. You can be my career started in the government sector, so I can definitely tell you there's a huge difference between a manager and a leader. I had a lot of managers who had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had leaders who weren't at, management positions, but they have this commanding presence. They don't ask you to follow them. You kind of like want to because you see that this man or this woman is competent and you feel safe around them. This is my definition, top of my head, of course.
You're correct in some that, let's say, a leader wants to lose their job, because if I'm helping you shine with your genius and you get promoted, if I'm the one that groomed you, chances are I'm being promoted as well.
Yeah.
Right. To a higher level, whether it's in this company or organization or another one. But a manager is afraid that if you do a really good job, they will be out of a job. Right. So there's that level of, okay, do this, but I'm going to hold you back because I don't want to look like an idiot if I don't know what's going on, for example.
Yeah, that was daily.
Afraid of that. A leader's not afraid of that because a leader's saying, look, I want everybody in my team to get promoted. The faster my team gets promoted, the better I look for encouraging them and inspiring them and motivating them. Right. So you have a lot of people that have titles, but they don't know how to lead. They know how to maybe execute A, B, and C, but that doesn't mean that the team feels inspired. The team is connected. Like, of the top 10 reasons why people leave a job, salary is actually number 7.
Yeah.
Number 1 reason is how you're treated, right? And so there is a level, and that's why I also became a corporate culturist, because there's a lot of leadership coaches, and there's some brilliant ones out there. I'm not saying that there's not, but I'm not a leadership coach. I'm a culture coach, because I help people understand that when you treat people with respect, when you recognize them, they'll work harder. And I'll give you a very simple example. If, let's say, you work or you have an executive assistant for you, as much as, let's say, you can give that person a $2,000 bonus, which will probably pay a few bills and help financially in many aspects, instead of giving the $2,000 bonus, pay them a full day of work and send them to the spa for $300 to get a massage to pamper them. I guarantee you that because the spa is considered a luxury for an administrative assistant or an executive assistant, the fact that you as the executive says, you know what, I really appreciate all the great work that you do for me. I want you to go pamper yourself. I want you to get a massage, do your nails, just to relax, for example. That person will come back so energized and so excited that they'll produce more. And I've proven that in my own career. So I was working as a director of admissions for a company that owns multiple private colleges across Canada. And before I was hired for this role, the expectation was that the team that I put together will generate an extra $300,000 for the company. based on restrictions that my team will call leads that are more than 4 months old, more than 75 kilometers from the nearest campus, and we're working on the phones. Now, I built an environment where, everybody on my team had nicknames. We joked around and called each other by our nicknames, and we had fun nicknames. Like we had Giggles. I had a 55-year-old woman who was called Hot Mama, and everybody loved it. It just brought energy, right? Every Monday morning when we did our kind of,
if you can't laugh at the office, you're in the wrong career. So I absolutely agree with you.
Right. So every Monday morning, I would go person by person, say, tell me, the things that worked really well for you in the week. And let's celebrate the fact that, you handled this objection well, or you got this many sales, or whatever it was that was great. And then I would ask the team, what were some of the difficulties that you had, for example? And instead of me as the director going, here's the answer, I would ask my team what they did and how they did it, so that we're always bouncing ideas from each other. It wasn't just me as the leader going blah, 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 blah. Now, in less than 6 months, my team did $2.25 million on a budget of $300,000 for the year. Now, we were doing so well that my VP came and kind of said to me, I want your team to do $150,000 for the week. I said, okay, for the week, right? Because we were doing so well as a pattern. So I told the team this, and I said, if you guys achieve this, I will reward the entire team Friday. By Wednesday at 3:15, we were at $210,000. Right?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Now, I told the entire team, do not bring lunch on Friday, my treat. And I'm going to treat you VIP. By Friday at noon, the team had reached $315,000. Okay? Now, I gave the entire team VIP movie passes to go. And I said, you guys go. I gave each one of them a $40 voucher to buy food in the theater, right? And I said, whatever you guys share or don't use, it's yours to keep. I don't want it back. Now, since we were an outbound call center, I said, I will stay here in case somebody calls back, okay? And I will close the sales for you. In fact, I closed 10 sales while they were gone for my team, and I gave the individuals that started the sale the credit, okay? Now, my boss found out that I sent the entire team to the movies during work hours. And he called me and said, what's wrong with you? I said, you asked for 150,000, we're at 315,000. So he's like, yeah, but they could have stayed a few extra hours and made a few extra sales. I looked at him, I said, listen, if my team...
That's petty at best.
Right. But I said to him, if my team does not improve their results next week, you can go ahead and fire me. The next week, when they came in on Monday, they were so excited about the fact that they got to go see a movie during work hours, that they got to sit in the VIP chairs and they got the full VIP treatment, right? And were more impressed that there was additional sales on their record because I closed it for them, that they produced $410,000 the following week, right?
Well, that's pretty impressive. And if you really think about it, it's not a lot, to send somebody to, okay, sometimes movies can be expensive, but put it into comparison, that's peanuts.
Correct.
That's not even a serious amount to consider.
We're talking about generating almost $750,000 for me to spend, let's say, $400.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where, on the corporate side, as a corporate culturist, a lot of executives don't understand this concept. I don't know if in Europe there's a show that I love watching called Undercover Boss, right?
I heard about it because there was this, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so there was this parody, but so I didn't watch it, but I know what it's about. Well,
basically the idea with the Undercover Boss is that a CEO or high-level executive in a company goes undercover to the frontline jobs, and they've never worked in these frontline jobs, and they get to learn how much people are struggling because, again, minimum wage can be as low as $8 an hour, and so trying to pay your bills and trying to take care of kids and so forth, and especially in the US, where when you're working minimum wage, you can't afford benefits. And in the US, unfortunately, there's a model that if you don't have benefits or insurance, they don't take care of you. They just kick you out of the hospital.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just for my personal clarification, I didn't exactly understand that. What do you mean benefits? Because the point is that once you're at the minimum wage, you need the benefits to make ends meet, right? So,
So when I say benefits, I'm talking medical, dental, eyewear,
oh,
surgery
okay.
cover. So like if you're sick and you need to go to the doctor, if you don't have insurance, you pay out of pocket. So the bill can be thousands of dollars for you, right?
Yeah.
So and so part of it is that they go to different locations of the company and they do different roles. And at the end of the show, what amuses me every single time is that the executive goes, "Oh my God, I should really speak to the people that work here. I might get some ideas on how to run this business more efficiently." Because a lot of times you have executives that sit in the uh, theoretical ivory tower that look at an Excel spreadsheet and go, "This number is not that great. Can we make this number better?" But they forget the human factor. They
Yeah.
forget that humans need to go to the bathroom. Humans need to have that water cooler coffee break conversation where you could talk about Star Wars or Star Trek, or you can, talk about music or television shows, because it helps kind of relax. It helps you uh, learn or be more productive. One of the people that I read, his name is Sean Aker. I don't know if he still does, but he used to work for Harvard University. He ran a course called Happiness. This course had a 2-year waiting list at Harvard. So anybody that was applying to Harvard, as soon as they applied, registered for this course even before they got accepted into Harvard, because of how popular this course is. And one of the things that Sean Aker talks about is that if you have teams that get together and spend 15 minutes just getting to know each other, talking about their life, talking about their experiences, they will be 20 to 30% more productive than teams that get together and get to work right away and focus, work. And
Yeah, of course, it makes perfect sense. Like, once you get to know one another, you vibe in a different way.
correct, but there's also a level of, okay, I'm an expert in this, so let me do this part, and then once I'm done this, I can help you with that because my part will help you finish yours. But unfortunately, we forget this more often than not, and so it's kind of like work, and we forget what about life and work-life
Isn't
balance.
this going to lead to a burnout or something? And burnout, it can have serious consequences later on.
Of course, but again, most companies don't think about it. Most companies don't, because it's not an item on their profit and loss statements, right? So you have to understand that, even you mentioned earlier that you work in government. So even in government,
No, I started there. Thankfully, I moved away.
okay, but even in government, you have politicians that have a very specific agenda, and they're so focused on this one agenda that they don't pay attention to other things that's going on. So give you an
Yep.
example. I live in Toronto, Canada. The government spent about $2.5 million arguing whether the subway extension should be called subway or LRT. They spent $2.5 million of taxpayers' money on the name.
Sounds like a money laundering.
No, it's not a money laundering. It was just more of
I mean,
ego.
it's
Like
either that or stupidity. I'd
it's an
go with
ego
money
thing.
laundering.
It's not a money laundering thing. It's an ego thing, because it's an ego
Oh,
thing.
okay.
I'm the politician that want to say I did the subway extension or the LRT extension. And I looked at it and went, call it Luigi for all I care,
Yeah.
right? Boom. You have, like, I don't care what you call it, but why are we wasting $2.5 million of taxpayers' money to sit there in whatever chambers and argue what the name should be? Who cares what the
We
name?
dealt with this issue a while ago here in Southern Europe, because we all go, we elect government, right? And it's usually like 4 years. If you're not impressive in 1 year, you're out. And there's going to be new elections.
That's typical around the world, but I'm just saying that the local or the municipal governments arguing over stuff like that, and I'm reading this article, I'm going,
This is rather odd.
call it transportation. Who cares? And then save $2.5 million, where that $2.5 million can be used to fill potholes, can be used to create childcare programs, can be used to create, better job programs, or so. But again, I'm not a politician. I'm just simply saying this is something that I look at and go, to me, this is a waste of
Yeah,
time and energy.
I had a friend, he like huge bodybuilder, right? Muscles and everything. And I work out every now and then, but it's like a normal workout, nothing special. Yeah, like all ripped up and everything. I said so. And I like, Anything special you do? Is that Danny, listen, sometimes when I'm a little bit tired, I just put on the news. And when I hear the politicians when they say about that, they say things about the budget and everything, I get up so nervous and I like pumping iron like crazy. It's so yeah, I can.
All right, so you have to understand, like, my focus is to try and help to make this world a better place by giving people kind of jobs where they get the fundamentals of 3 A's: to be accepted, to be appreciated, to be acknowledged. This is why we seek love so desperately, because when you're loved, you get all three of those all the time,
I
right?
couldn't agree more, but I really want to talk to you about the third question because
Yeah,
you have tremendous information to share, not only because your mentality, not only because your view, but because of your incredible experience. My
thank you.
third question is, how did you know that this was the way to go? Now, normally I'm asking because I'm sure, and you, with your experience, you've noticed that too. People start the whole academia thing. They go to colleges, universities because they were told that they should go over there, and they often, well, maybe not often, but a lot of times they start something that is clearly not for them, and afterwards start a job related to that they've studied, but it's really not for them, and they
Well,
end
the
up being
statistics in North
miserable.
America, is that up to 70% of people never
70 or 17.
70% of people never work in what they actually studied in university.
So why and that's the point, because and I know in North America the education is a little bit expensive. Here, most of like 90% of the time it's dirt cheap. I'm doing a PhD, it's going to be like 500 and something USD per year. That's for the
Wow.
PhD.
You can't
My
pay
master's
$500 for the bus here. So
Yeah, my master's degree, I graduated in Denmark, so it was for free. And here in Southern Europe, in Bulgaria, I was going to a private college, which is a little bit more expensive. I paid it all when I was working as a bartender. So that's
yeah, I mean, so yes, so that's definitely an advantage, but you have to understand, and here's the catch-22, I will say, right? The education system as it exists right now is designed to prepare people for the Industrial Revolution. We are no longer in the Industrial Revolution. We are in the
yeah.
technological revolution. So, although some courses are slowly but surely being upgraded, there's still a massive gap on the skills and the learning. If we trace back to, again, Henry Ford, that created the Ford Motor Company, he was sued for being too dumb to run the Ford Motor Company. And when he was sued, the lawyer that was kind of questioning him asked him, okay, who in history did this and who in history did that? And he looked and went, I don't know. And the lawyer was like, you see, you don't know. You're not smart enough to run the Ford Motor Company. And he said, no, I'm smart enough to use this little device called a telephone where I can pick up the receiver and give you the world-renowned historian to tell you about history. My brain is focused on building the engine. I don't need to know in history who did this or who did that because it has nothing to do with engines, right? I surround myself with people that are very, very smart that allow me to do what I do best. And this is where I can say, as an entrepreneur and answering your question, I hire great accountants because I don't want to sit there and create Excel spreadsheets. And there's software that does it. There's accountants that studied it. They know better than me what's necessary. I'm fascinated by law, but I'm not a lawyer. So I have a lawyer that checks all my contracts to make sure that there's no surprises or nuances that I might have missed because I'm not a lawyer, for example. Okay. And I'd rather pay for that. Now, in the same respect, because I didn't know what I want to do when I grew up, I started doing self-development. I started going courses. When I did some of these courses, they made a huge impact on me. And then I took it a step back and went, how come nobody's doing this for job finding? How come nobody's addressing this issue?
Actually, that's what I wanted to ask you, because with all that tremendous skill you have, you literally could have been anything. Yet you chose to be the mediator between the people that are looking for a job and those that are hiring. Now, you cannot do that if you're not a people's person, in my opinion, of course. But
Look,
I think you can't.
there's a level where I've had a life roller coaster of experiences, and I'm in a stage in my life where I'm grateful for everything that God provides me, the good and the bad. You know,
Yeah.
God gifted me with this wisdom and with the ability to take the workforce and simplify it in a way that leaderships go, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. So that I can get clients like Tata, you know, which is massive around the world, to understand the value that I bring, or Deloitte or Apotex or anything like that. But the reality is that even this, like, I used to do just recruiting. I had a business partner that taught me a $360,000 life lesson, completely wiped me clean. And I had to kind of put my vision, my dream on hold for almost 10 years to rebuild my life. Right. But I'm grateful for those experiences because now I've come up like a phoenix, even stronger and better. So
Yeah,
I
you
don't
carry
just
that
do,
with you, of course.
right? Because that's why I don't just do recruiting, I do corporate culture. And I not only create the manuals for companies, but I help them implement strategies to celebrate their staff, to understand that if they, you know, you don't need to spend money like Google, right, to be a great company. You need to make sure that your leaders know how to communicate the vision. Your leaders demonstrate that they believe in it, internalize it themselves. And when they speak, they empower others to kind of go, I want to this
Yeah.
company to be successful. I want more. And when you have that, you can have organizations that strive. A lot of people don't understand how little things can make such a difference. I was having dinner with one of my uncles who used to be the president CEO of a company that built the Canada arm in terms of space technology.
Remarkable.
And he was telling me that his software develop like engineers, his software developers and his engineers get so focused on solving a problem that they often forget to eat, right? I said, okay, let's do a little bit of experiment, right? I want you to send somebody from your organization to Costco, which is like a massive grocery store, where you can buy some fruits, some granola bars, some cookies, some gummy bears, you know, some candy. And I just want you to leave it in a staff room, and I want you to track productivity. Within a month, productivity increased by over 20%. Now think
That's a
about what I
lot.
just said.
20% is a
A
lot.
few cookies generates millions of dollars. So to spend $300 to $500 a week to buy food to have in the office, for your engineers to be more focused because they've been fed, for your engineers to know that, okay, I haven't brought lunch, I can go grab something from the lunchroom and come back to work. Now I'm more productive because their brain is refreshed, right? How many companies don't understand that simple little concept? You
You know,
know,
I don't want to frighten you, but yeah, there are a lot of companies.
oh,
I
I'm aware. You
remember,
don't frighten me. This is why I love what I do, because
yeah.
I get to help bring that to the forefront. I help to organize companies in a way that they start thriving because all these little things start adding up very quickly. Their employee engagement,
And if you really
right?
think about it, it's common sense. You shouldn't be going to a specific course university to figure that one out. That's basic.
Common sense is
Romans
not so
figured it
common.
out 4,000 years ago when they were building the bridges. Like basically well, they use different measures, but let's say the last 5 or 7 minutes of an hour, you had like a break. You know, and they didn't go to college.
But common sense is not so common anymore. We've become a
Yeah.
digital, you
Yeah.
know, everything like, you know, I joke that kids today get angry that it takes them 30 seconds to nuke their food in their microwave. You know, it's not let's sit there and cook for 2 hours and make a delicious meal. It's why is it taking 30 seconds for my food to be ready?
Okay, I've never seen that, but I believe you.
Right. So you have to understand there is again cultural differences in that in Europe there is that we sit down for dinner, right? Like let's say if you look at Italian coffee,
Yeah.
Italians don't understand this to go coffee model that Starbucks has. Why? Because if you're going for coffee, you sit down at the restaurant for coffee. It's kind of the experience of sitting down for a not
And you need
come
at
and go,
least
give me a
20 to
cup,
30 minutes.
huh?
You need at least 20 to 30 minutes when you're in a coffee shop. You need
Right,
that to
but
sit down to describe the day, etc., etc.
right, but the European mentality is that we're going to go sit and enjoy ourselves. We're not in a rush get back to work, and everything has to be go, go, go. And there's things that, there's deadlines. We need to finish certain things, but there is much more in Europe, a work-life balance that says, you know what, once 5-6 o'clock hits, stop working, go home, enjoy your life. Whereas in the US, there's no, like, again, accountants during tax season are like, nope, you need to stay here till 10 o'clock at night, for example.
Every now and then that happens here, like at a quarter closing, because I'm an accountant. So it happens like every 3 months, every 6 months.
But again, if it's during tax season where it's only 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year, that's okay.
Yeah.
But when the expectation, and that's the regular, especially if you want to get promoted or move to become a partner or anything like that, then this is where, let's say in North America, accounting is one of the professions that has the highest level of burnouts. Why? Because you're forced to work 80 hours. You're forced to do that. And so even if you're making a good salary, when you're working, like if you're making $100,000, but you're working 80 hours a week, you're actually making less than minimum wage.
Yeah.
In comparison, because of the hours that you're working, because you're working 2 full-time jobs. That's kind of the equation of balance that needs to occur.
No, that's, you are right. That's tricky. People should be. I probably wouldn't agree on those terms as an accountant. I definitely wouldn't agree with that.
But again, this is why individuals get their license and then they open their own firm and they can kind of control. They don't do the exciting, big stores, transactions, but they make decent salary and they have work-life balance. And
not only that, they have life. And for a little bit of an end, because we're running out of time, Joe, if you happen to have a bit of an advice for my audience, which is mostly fresh out of college or in college at the moment or fresh at the workforce,
the most important thing is on your resume, stop telling me that you know how to do things. So I'm going to use you, Denny. If you're an accountant and you graduate an accountant and you tell me that you know how to do financial statements like income statement, balance sheet, can you name me one accountant in the world that doesn't?
A few, but they were all from the government sector, so they don't count.
But here's where
you're right. The normal accountants,
so even if you only studied and you haven't had experience, quantify your results. I got an A in this course, right? Now you're different than everybody else. Okay. I worked here. I was able to save them $25,000 because I told them to do this and this. If you quantify the results, you are different than everybody else. Add a little flavor. If you notice the background, my shirt, I have purple. Purple is my signature. If you look at anything I do on social media, purple is my color. Why? Because it brands me. So don't be afraid to add a little bit of color to your resume. Don't be afraid to add results to your resume, right? If you've got results for sports, if you've got results for volunteering, if you've gotten results in part-time jobs that you've had, if you've got results, give it to me, because the more you give me results, the better you paint a picture of how great you are and why companies should hire you.
That's an amazing advice. And with that said, Joe, huge thanks for being with me, man. Don't forget to send me all the links for the description, and we should do it again.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.